What's up, guys? Welcome to another Tutorial Tuesday. Today's going to be a little different in that it's not going to be so much of a direct tutorial as an indirect get into my head type of thing.
I'm going to use the drift method. Freaking incredible. Round F16 for that to get that sunburst.
So what I've been wanting to do for a while is a lot of people are always asking me how I edited a certain image or how I got a certain look, or is that image real, or just all these technical questions about the images. So what I wanted to do is start a series about basically bringing you on the edit with me, and I'm going to show you how I edit certain images, and I'm going to go from start to finish. I'll tell you the settings that I shot it with in the camera, but then I'm going to start in Bridge where I shoot in Camera Raw, and then go from there and go into everything that I do or don't do in Photoshop. And the goal with this whole series is going to be to help you understand not only the power of editing, but to also help you understand my creative process and kind of get inside here and what I'm thinking. And I've said this before on other things, but I say it again here. One thing that really helps my photography personally is editing, and not just like getting better at editing, but also like the more I edit, the better I become as a photographer, in that like when I go out into the field or whatever, I start thinking about not just how I can take the shot, but what I'm gonna do to that shot in post, because there's always something, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just some basic corrections or whatever, there's always something that I'm gonna do to an image in post. And that train of thought, I think, really helps. Especially it helps with your creativity, it helps with the technical side when you're setting up your camera and your composition and your lighting, and you're thinking, can I fix this in post, or can I do this to it in post, or can I do that, anything like that. So hopefully you'll get something useful out of this, and you'll get to see the editing techniques that I do, and you'll get to just kind of be inside here for a little bit. So let's hop into Photoshop and get started.
Alright, so we're going to start off here in Bridge. I've already done, this is the edit for the thing I already did, but here's a bunch of the raw images that I shot. And so what I did here was I put my camera on the tripod, I got it framed up. Once I found the frame that I wanted, I did some light testing to test how bright and how long I needed to leave the lights on, and then I set up different shots. So you can see in here I lit up different areas of the images. So this image here, this is the final image. This is a blend of 3 different images that were all taken roughly at the same time. Okay, so looking at all of these, this is the one that I want to edit for the base image. So I'll open it up in Camera Raw. I'm not going to redo this, but I will walk you through it real quick. And you can see I didn't do too much on the global stuff, because night images like this, I just don't do too much globally. I just did a little bit of vibrance and saturation enhancement here. Dropped the temperature just a little bit because it was, way too warm, or I don't know what it was at. So that's what it was at, and then I just dropped it a little bit more. I like my night images to look a little cooler in temperature. So then I come up here and I remove the chromatic aberration. This definitely helps for the stars in here, and you can see if you go into it, you can see if there is any, it'll be around the edges of these stars, and then you can go ahead and remove it, and then maybe manually drag that a little bit more. And then the next thing that I do is I'm going to come up here to the detail, and I am going to, as you can tell, I brought up my luminance to 25, which is pretty high. But I shot this at ISO 8000, and it's a night image, so there's going to be inherently a lot of noise. So I brought it up to 25, and then I'm just going to bring up the color detail, and the color smoothness just a little bit to help the stars. So once I have that noise under control, then the next thing I'm going to do is start working on these guys, and I'm going to work on my selective edits. So the first thing I did here is you can see this is the area that I painted and worked on, and I've got this one selected. So this is what I did to it: some contrast increase, some highlights increase and some whites increase. Increasing the whites is really going to help with your astro stuff because it's not going to be a blanket exposure increase. It's only going to increase the bright parts, which are the stars, which is going to give you more contrast. So increase those whites a little bit, painted a little clarity into the sky around the Milky Way area, and then just a touch of dehaze, again, right in here. And then for the second one, you can see a strip that I followed. I followed this strip and painted in where the Milky Way, because the Milky Way is running this way. As it's rising, it's more parallel to the horizon. So I want to paint that in. I want to add a bit more contrast because there's a lot of brights and darks within the Milky Way, so make those pop a little bit. Then I'm going to add even more selective of my whites there, a little more clarity, and just a touch more dehaze. I like to do this in increments, that way I can see if I need to back it off or if I still need to add more, and I think it works better than just trying to do it all at once. So those are my selective masks. And that's it for camera raw. So now I'm going to go ahead and open the image. Alright, so now we're in Photoshop, and for the sake of time on your part and my part, I'm not going to re-edit the image completely. I'm just going to go through this panel here and show you what I've done and show you the individual things. So the first thing that I want to do is start working on this image to get it ready for to be the background. So I come in here and I've created a new curves, and you can see putting the black mask there and then painting in the curves where I want. So I've just got just a very general S curve here, just to darken these darks a little bit and just to very lightly brighten the whites. And then I'm just going to paint with white. So then I'm just going to get my brush and I'm going to paint with white right in the areas that I want to correct. So what I'm doing here is this area was a little too bright, and I want all my emphasis on this Milky Way here. So you can see when I toggle it on and off, this area right here is now darkening up. So it's just smoothing that transition to make sure there's no wonky lighting going on. And then the same thing, I do it again. I created another one here and just painted in this little spot at a slightly different level, and I'm just bringing up the midtones a little bit here with the curves. And you can see just smoothing out this area so that the transition is smooth and the eyes go where I want them to. The next thing I'm going to do here is, you can see right here, I'm going to be focusing on the Milky Way and making that pop a little bit more. So what I've done is I've drastically increased these whites here by bringing this up, and then just slightly decreasing some of the darker midtones and shadows. And what that's going to do, then I'm just going to paint that in right in here to all of this stuff. I'm going to try not to paint the bridge, but just kind of paint the Milky Way. Most of the Milky Way is here, and that's where I want to concern myself with. So there's some nice bit of contrast there. Then I just duplicate it by hitting Control J, and I duplicate this and make it pop again. And then when you duplicate it, if you need to, you can come up here and you can see I've dropped the opacity to 50%, because if I left it at 100, I just think that's too harsh. So drop it down to 50, and then I'm happy with that. So now my background is ready, and I'm happy with the background image. And the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to bring in the image of myself. So what I've done here is I have just come into Bridge and I've grabbed this image here, and I tweaked it a little bit in Camera Raw just to get things cleaned up on this end. I'm not concerned with the sky on this one because I'm not using the sky. I'm only going to be using this area. So I've just tweaked things to help get this area looking the way I need to. So then I just open that up into another layer. I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to grab my square tool, So I just basically want this. So I'm just going to select that and Control C and then bring it over and then Control V, and then now I have my layer, and you can see if you hit Control T, this is the image that I've brought in, and you can see move it around. So you can drop the opacity a little bit, and then if you have your snap set to your Photoshop, then you can align it much easier that way. So once it's all aligned, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new mask by clicking this guy down here and bringing up this mask, and then I'm going to clean up the edges a little bit so that it blends smoothly, and then there we are. So that's the second image blended. The next thing I'm going to do is work on some of the color balancing because the colors are a little off in certain areas. So you can see right here, this is actually a natural phenomenon. This green stuff is a green glow, and we get that sometimes. But for this image, I want it to be a little cooler. So I'm just going to go ahead and do my color balance, and I've tweaked it just a little bit. Just drop the reds just a hair, drop the magentas just a little bit, and increase the blues just a little bit. So then I'm going to come in and I'm just going to paint that in to the area that I want, and that's just over the Milky Way here. So I'm happy with that. The next thing I'm going to do is another layer. I need one more layer because I want this to be a little bit brighter. This river, there was a couple shots where I lit it up a little bit better. So I'm going to bring that in. So I've come back here, and this is the image that I picked for the river image, where I'm happy with the even light over the river. And again, I'm just tweaking it a little bit just in the river area. I'm not concerned about anything else because I'm only going to be using this part. So done with that, open the image. Now I'm going to bring that in the same way. I just selected a little piece of it right here, drop it in, line it up, and then create a little layer mask so that I can blend this area and make it nice and smooth. And that's it. So now my river's in there. So the next thing you'll notice is this coloring doesn't really match the rest of the image, so I need to fix that. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to tweak it a little bit, mostly just adding some blues. The big thing is here is you can see this little arrow. This arrow, if you just hold Alt and then you'll see my mouse cursor changed, and then click right there over the line between these two. See, it's only right there on the line. That will mean that this layer only affects the layer directly underneath it, and that's all I want. I don't want this to affect the rest of the image, only this new layer that I've brought in. So that's just cleaning up, making it a little bit cooler, getting rid of a little bit of those blues. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add some curves, and I'm going to bring up these highlights just a little bit. And I want to bring up the highlights pretty much everywhere except for the lightest parts of the image, which are right here. So you notice I painted black and just covered this up so that it doesn't get too overexposed. And now the last thing is one more levels, and this is extremely subtle. But all I've done is increased the mid-tones here just a little bit, and you can do this the same with curves. It works just the same. But it's very subtle. Look up here in the top right corner, and I've just very subtly increased it so that it's not so crushed and black right there. And that's just all these little things. So all I've done here is just change the mid-tones a little bit and made it just a hair darker. So again, this is just going to help push the eye towards the center of the Milky Way and the subject here, and it's super subtle. You can barely notice it. But this area right here is just darkening up just a little bit, and that's just going to smooth the transition and act like a natural vignette. And there it is. There comes a time in every image when you just kind of have to self-police yourself. I'm pretty sure that's a term. And you just got to stop and take a look back, because there's probably more I could do to this, but again, the more you do to it, the more you push it. I'm just going to go ahead and save it as a JPEG, and then I'm going to make sure the JPEG looks okay. And then for stuff like this, especially your night stuff, you really want to test it. Put it on your phone and look at it, or put it on a tablet or your laptop or something small. That way you can see to make sure, because different screens, especially most people looking at laptops and mobile phones and all that stuff, the images are going to look different. So just make sure it looks good on wherever you're going to put it, and then you can go back and tweak it again if you need to. All right, we're done here. I need some tea. Let's hop out of here.
All right, so that one was pretty editing intensive in terms of all of that stuff going on in there. But I hope that helped you kind of see what it is I'm doing and help you understand kind of up here and what I'm thinking, and not just on the technical side and editing, because again, this wasn't a tutorial, so I may have done some stuff that you haven't seen before or that you wish you knew more of, and I will do tutorials on a lot of the specific stuff coming up in individual videos. But this series I want to stick to more of just how I edited an image. And if you guys like this kind of stuff and you want to see more of it, let me know in the comments below, because the community feedback here is super important to me and my channel. I'm doing this for you guys, and I'm doing this because I've had a lot of requests for this type of thing. So if you like it, let me know. If there's anything else you want to see, like this stuff or pertaining to this, put it in the comments below, because I love reading them. I love seeing what you guys want to see, and I love making what you guys want to see. So yeah, leave your comments below. If you like this, hit that like button for me. It really helps me out. And if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to the channel. I've got new videos every Tuesday and Friday. I really love the support I'm getting from you guys and the community, and how fast my channel is growing. And I'm just stoked to keep moving forward. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.